So imagine this, walking into a store full of sleek, beautifully packaged products, but none of them have labels, no description, no clear indication of what they do or how they benefit you. So you might enjoy browsing around and looking at them, but when it comes time to pull out your credit card and buy, you're going to be hesitant because you essentially don't know what you're paying for. So that's honestly how prospects feel when you present them with a capabilities deck that doesn't clearly describe the services that your agency offers. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to package up your services in your capabilities deck in a way that's clear, compelling, and sales driven so that your deck actually gets you hired. And be sure to stick around until the end because I'm going to break down the number one mistake I see in agency capabilities decks that holds them back from booking more clients. So here's the truth. Prospects buy clarity. So if your services are vague or broad or buried under a bunch of buzzwords, prospects aren't going to take the time to figure out what you do. They're simply going to move on. A clear list of services and what you offer is the difference between a pitch that gets paid attention to and a pitch that gets ignored. So without a clear picture of what your agency does and how it brings value to your prospects, you're turning your sales process into an uphill battle. So how do you fix it? You position your services like a product and you make it crystal clear what that prospect is going to get if they hire you. So what's the fastest way to clarify your services? Start with the result. What is the measurable metric that we've helped change? So here are a few examples for different agency types, and I'm going to use these and kind of walk through step by step the process of how we get from the result all the way to the clear list of services. So for the creative agency, it could be that the result was the client doubled their close rate. For the content creation agency, it could be that the client doubled video engagement and increased inbound inquiries by 30%. And for the experiential agency, it could be the client saw a 40% increase in event attendance. So what's important here is to just begin with the result. What was that measurable metric that you were able to impact? And it's important to show the prospect the result because essentially you're showing them why what you do matters, how it's going to benefit them, and what they can get out of hiring you. So the next step is to back into the problem. Essentially, you want to ask what problem were they originally having? And the result is obviously the solution to that problem. You've solved it with the result, but what was the initial problem that they were having? So for example, for our creative agency, the problem was a low close rate. So their brand felt inconsistent and unpolished, making them look less credible in client pitches. So that's obviously clear. Their issue was low close rate. The result that you got was doubling their close rate. For the content creation agency, it was low engagement. So their videos looked DIY and they weren't showcasing the brand's value clearly. So that result was solved by doubling video engagement and increasing inbound increase by 30%. And for the experiential agency, their issue and the problem that they had was low attendance. So they were struggling to drive interest in RSVPs for their brand activations. And then the result was solving that because clients saw 40% increase in event attendance. So first we highlight the result, then we highlight the actual problem that the result solved. And again, this is important because you want to be able to speak to the prospect clearly about the problem that you solve as an agency and the problem that they'll be solving if they hire you, because essentially you're touching on that pain point for them and that's going to really connect with them and make it clear. Again, the purpose here is clarity. It's going to make it clear to them what you solve, the problem that you solve, and then we're going to get into the next piece, which is how you actually solve it. So the next step is to actually define the solution. So this is where you're basically going to talk about what you did and what steps you took to get that client to the result and to solve that problem for them. But you want to talk about those steps in the context of the transformation that you delivered. So for example, with the creative agency, instead of talking generally, this is something I see a lot of agencies do. We did branding, strategy, and visual design. These are kind of general big terms. You want to actually get very specific about the exact steps you took and the exact things you did to solve the problem for the client. So for the example of the creative agency, it could be something along the lines of we refreshed their brand messaging, visual identity, and pitch deck to create a more consistent, polished look, which made them look and feel more credible in meetings and help double their close rate. And so for the example of the content creation agency, it could be something along the lines of we developed a content strategy focused on high retention short form video, elevated their production quality with professional lighting and editing, and structured each video around a clear brand hook and CTA, which doubled engagement and drove a 30% increase in inbound inquiries. So again, super specific. They're touching on the exact tactical things that they did to solve the problem. And so for the experiential agency example, it could be something like we launched a targeted email invite series, created custom branded installations designed for social sharing, and built a branded countdown campaign on Instagram stories to drive urgency, which helped build buzz and led to a 40% increase in RSVPs and attendance. And so as you can see, these are all very specific kind of tactical lists of what this agency did to solve the problem for their clients. And the more specific you can get, the easier it's going to be to do the next step, which is to then extract the list of services that your agency offers, to extract the most clear, compelling list of services, because now you're going to have these very specific tactical things that the prospect on the other end of the pitch is going to have a very clear idea of in terms of what they would be getting if they hire you. So let's talk about the last step. This is where you actually pull out the services, that final list of services that you can put in your capabilities deck to make it clear and compelling so the prospect knows exactly what they're getting if they hire you. So for our creative agency example, their final list of services would be brand messaging refresh, visual identity update, and pitch deck design. And those were pulled directly from that section above in the solution, where you're just pulling out the actual tactics that you did and rewriting them in a clear bullet list so that it's very clear 1, 2, 3 what the services are that they offer. And then for the content creation agency, the final list of services would be short form video content strategy, premium video production, and scripting and CTA development. So again, those were extracted directly from the solution. They spoke about doing those three things to get the client to the result. So now we want to just put them in a clear bullet list, easy to understand, easy for the prospect to digest. And for the experiential agency, the list of services would be email invite campaign strategy, custom branded event installations, and social media promo campaign. So those tie again back to what was in the solution above and exactly tactically what they did to get that client to the result. So to land on that final clear list of services, we essentially just worked back, starting with the measurable result that you were able to get for the client, then identifying the problem that was solved for that client, then identifying tactically step by step what were the things that you did in order to solve that problem for the client, and then from that tactical list extracting the actual clear bullet list of services that you delivered in order to get that result. And so as promised, let's kind of talk about the elephant in the room, that number one mistake I see agencies making really generally, but it kind of comes to a head with their pitch and with their capabilities deck. And that's simply that they're offering too many services. And when you offer a ton of services, you add a ton of complexity to your pitch, to your capabilities deck. It goes up in length. You kind of have to provide proof for all these different services and that you can really do them and do them well. And all of that complexity just makes your sales process an uphill battle because, again, prospects buy clarity. So clarity is confidence, confusion is hesitation. And the more confusion and complexity you add, the harder it is going to be to pitch and win more clients. And I like to use an example from the VC world because before I did capabilities decks, I did a ton of investor decks for founders who were looking to raise money. And in that world, all of those decks are built the same exact way and they're very, very structured. They usually start with a problem, the solution, maybe like a why now, and then the actual product or business that the founder is putting forth to raise money for. So, each founder is pitching that one core problem, one core solution, because that's essentially what gets funded. Nobody wants to fund a company that kind of does a little bit of everything. But I feel like in the agency space, we've completely lost sight of that clarity and specificity. I see tons of agency decks all the time, and they have a laundry list of services. We do PR, influencer marketing, creative, graphic design, brand strategy, social media marketing. And the more services you add and the more complexity you add, it's just going to make your pitch more and more confusing to the prospect who's typically going to be coming to you for one key problem that they have that they need solved. And essentially, they want to make sure that you are the right agency to solve it. And so even if you dabble in all of those services to some degree, pitches like that lack focus. And honestly, the most successful pitches are the ones that are the most focused. So, if you are an agency that offers a lot of services, I encourage you to try this exercise. I think it can really help you, just really hone in on what your agency is good at. And again, you figure that out by focusing on those measurable metrics that you really impact, that you have data around. What kind of transformations have you really been able to get for your clients? That's where you should start. And then back out of that using the process I outlined in this video to kind of back out of that into that final list of services. And then that very specific list of services, it's going to bring you a ton of clarity. And I guarantee you it's going to make your deck more powerful, your pitch more powerful, your agency more easy to remember, to refer, because again, it's very clear specifically what you do and what problem you solve. So anyone with that problem knows that they should come to you. So to sum it up, if you want to clearly position your agency services in your capabilities deck, you want to, number one, start with the result. Number two, frame up the problem that you solve. Number three, walk them through the solution you delivered. And number four, use that solution to extract the clear list of services that you offer. Prospects are not asking for more slides. They simply have one question: can you solve my problem? And the job of the capabilities deck is to make that answer obvious. So if you need help clarifying your services, clarifying your positioning, making sure that your pitch is answering that question and making your agency the obvious hire, check the link down below in the description to book a call with my team. We'd love to talk to you to see if we can help. And be sure to watch this video next. In this video, I walk you through step by step every slide you should include in your capabilities deck in order, what to include on every slide to ensure that your pitch is optimized, ready to go, and ready to close bigger, better clients so you can grow your agency.